Hi everyone. In the process of looking over my notes from my reading of Jerry Bergman's book called JWs, or Jehovah's Witnesses and the Problem of Mental Illness, I recalled something that I wrote many years ago in connection with a request for a statement regarding my life as a Jehovah's Witness and growing up as a witness. It was being used for a child custody case of a parent who was, I believe, an ex-witness, and the other parent being an active witness, and they wanted some information about what it's like growing up in a witness family. And I was struck in reading it again, the number of things that you might say from my case history that are similar to the things that are pointed out in Bergman's book as factors that influence the high rate of mental illness in Jehovah's Witnesses. So I decided I might start, before we get into Bergman's material more in detail, I would read you this document that I wrote. And because of the length of it, I'm going to read it in 3 parts. So this is the first part. I entitled it, Living in and Leaving God's Organization. When I was still a baby, my parents, recent immigrants to Canada, became Jehovah's Witnesses. So my first 28 years were with Jehovah's Witnesses teachings and lifestyle. I came from a close-knit family of 2 loving parents and 3 siblings. We went to 5 meetings a week at the Kingdom Hall. One evening a week we studied a Watchtower publication together as a family. At breakfast time, whenever the whole family was together, mostly weekends, we would have a short discussion of another Watchtower publication. On Saturday morning, we went as a family out in field service, door to door, selling Watchtower and Awake magazines and other Watchtower publications. I started to sell these publications myself at the age of 9. At the Kingdom Hall meetings, all children were encouraged to view full-time work for the Watchtower as a career. We were encouraged to develop a skill that would enable us to work part-time, to afford living expenses, and then to spend 90 hours a month doing the door-to-door and studying of Watchtower publications with those who showed an interest. The pressure was strong throughout childhood to become full-time workers for the Watchtower. Note some examples and dates of these statements from the Watchtower. So the first one is from our Kingdom Ministry of September 1974. It reads, "Consider what you are doing in discharging your responsibility toward those who still are not approved servants of Jehovah. Their lives are in grave danger at the fast approaching Great Tribulation. Are you responding to their urgent need for help? Are your circumstances such that you could make adjustments in your routine of life to enable you to share to a greater extent in the vital warning and rescue work that will be ending soon? Would this concluding period of the last days not be an appropriate time for intensified activity? We do not want to have a charge of blood guilt leveled against us because of having been indifferent to the critical situation of people in our territory. This is certainly no time to be distracted by a desire to get comfortably situated in the world or by undue anxiety over making a living." So I would have been 14 reading this. Then in 1981, just before I was married, this statement in the Our Kingdom service of September. "Must you be a pioneer in order to be whole-souled in your service? Whole-souled service means you are doing all you can in God's service. The Apostle Paul himself, a full-time preacher, felt so strongly about his responsibilities that he said, "Woe is me if I did not declare the good news." 1 Corinthians 9:16. Every young person ought to give serious consideration to this field of service. When he completes his years of required secular education, what is he going to do with his life? His answer to that question, in the case of one who is dedicated and is baptized, there should be no doubt. Then in 1982, September, of our Kingdom ministry, it says, loyal youths share in congregation meetings as well as in the field's ministry. Increasing numbers of young ones are rejecting high-paying jobs or higher education in favor of a career in the ministry. In 1982, again in the Our Kingdom Ministry of July, it said children should be trained at a very, very early age to accompany their parents in the field ministry. Then the last quote is an earlier quote from the Awake, May 22nd, 1969. It said, if you are a young person, you also need to face the fact that you will never grow old in this present system of things. Why not? Because all the evidence in fulfillment of Bible prophecy indicates that this corrupt system is due to end in a few years. Of the generation that observed the beginning of the last days in 1914, Jesus foretold, this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur. And they reference Matthew 24. Therefore, as a young person, you will never fulfill any career that this system offers. If you are in high school and thinking about a college education, it means at least 4, perhaps even 6 or 8 more years to graduate into a specialized career. But where will this system of things be at that time? It will be well on the way toward its finish, if not actually gone. With practical trades, many young persons have been able to sustain themselves with part-time work. This allows them to spend much more of their time helping interested persons to learn God's requirements for life by studying the Bible with them. True, those who do not understand where we are in the stream of time from God's viewpoint will call this impractical. But which is really practical? Preparing yourself for a position in this world that will soon pass away, or working toward surviving this system's end and enjoying eternal life in God's righteous new order? So that was the Awake, May 22nd, 1969. So needless to say, my goal became to be a pioneer, a full-time worker for the Watchtower without pay. The Watchtower had no paid worker. At the same time, I grew up thinking I would unlikely see that goal fulfilled because the end of the world would happen before I left school. When I wrote this, I was 44 years old. I'm now almost 62. I attended public and high school and was an average student. Secular education never seemed very important. It served only to get basic skills and a usable skill for a part-time job. Outside of Watchtower literature, I read very little, only that required in school. Being a Jehovah's Witness gives a very different worldview, pessimistic. The end of the world always was near. I was regularly, weekly if not daily, hearing statements like the following. Again, some Watchtower and Awake quotes. This one is the Awake of October 8, 1966. Within relatively few years, we will witness the fulfillment of the remaining prophecies that have to do with the time of the end. A brief period of years at the most separate us from the great wind-up of this old system. 1966. Now this one is in May 1st, 1968 Watchtower. The immediate future is certainly to be filled with climatic events, for this old system is nearing its complete end. Within a few years at most, the final parts of Bible prophecy related to these last days will undergo fulfillment. From the October 8, 1968 Awake, it said, "Time is rapidly running out for this wicked system of things. It is very close to plunging into the chasm of Armageddon." The Watchtower of January 15, 1969 stated, "There is only a short time left before Jehovah will destroy this wicked system of things." The July 15, 1976 Watchtower said, "The end is very near. The remaining time is very short." What is the point of education in literature, history, anything? I enjoyed English and art classes, but pursued business courses, which I loathed, for they would enable me to work as a secretary part-time on leaving school. I now enjoy reading and feel 20 years behind in my education. I wouldn't say I still haven't caught up. All through my school years, I was excused from the class for the national anthem, which the Watchtower views as worship instead of respect for one's country, and the Lord's Prayer. Repetition of prayers was considered wrong. I was also excused from any activities related to all holidays and never attended social events, dances, sports events, or anything of extracurriculum. The Watchtower organization discourages friendships outside of other Jehovah's Witnesses, so friendships at school were kept to a minimum, and rarely did any of my schoolmates come to my home or I to theirs. I was the first of my parents' children to finish grade 12. Both my older siblings finished at grade 11. So that's as much as I'll read today. But in this first section, these are some of the things that I found Bergman to say were factors that could influence your mental health as a witness. Pressure, so full-time work, the pressure to be in full-time work. Blood guilt, worrying over blood guilt, that was illustrated in this. The fast approach of Armageddon and surviving it. The lack of education, quitting school early or not really paying much attention to it while you're in it. Alienation from school peers and from society in general, friendships being limited to people within the Watchtower. So I will continue the reading of the document in the next video. I'm going to link to a video that was based on some reading from Ray Franz's book, In Search of Christian Freedom. We entitled it, JW's, Are You Blood Guilty If You Don't Go Door to Door? And the second one is my discussion of my re-education when I left the Watchtower. It's the first of 3 videos. Till the next time.